And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with Yankee coming in from Florida. Just before we begin, I want to get some housekeeping out of the way. We have our final Rebel Live event here for 2022 in Calgary this Saturday on November 26th. There are still tickets available. I will be there. Lots of the other Rebel crew will be there as well. You'll hear from, of course, our Rebel commander, Ezra Levant. We have Sheila Gunn Reid, our editor in chief. And then we have some friends like from the Western Standard, like Derek Fildebrand, or the True North with Andrew Lawton. It's going to be fantastic. So you can go and grab your tickets at rebelnewslive.com, secure your spot, come hang out with some freedom loving people. Now, Yankee, you watched the commission the entire day. Is that fair to say?
Entire that would be too much, but I did watch 90% of it. I watched a lot of it, and not just today, but I've been watching it pretty much throughout. I've skipped a few hours there, here or there. But while I'm working, I'm watching it, and today I decided since Sheila isn't on, I'll come on and talk about it a bit.
Tell me, what was your biggest takeaway then? 100%.
My biggest takeaway was the Fox News thing, where they're like bashing Fox News. And I know we mentioned earlier that we're going to show it. So I believe it's clip 10. Let's show it and then we'll talk.
100%.
Not the Terry Fox statue.
And the Fox News reference there is especially significant because many Canadian banks have significant operations in the United States. And so having Fox News attack you isn't a problem only because Canadians might be watching, but if you have a big US operation, it's a problem because your American customers will be watching. And I do think that was a problem that was legitimate to raise, and I was concerned about it. And the Fox News reference.
Well, that was fun. Break it down, Yankee. Break it down.
So I'll break it down first by saying I do live in Florida. As you know, I'm a dual citizen, and I actually had a TD Canadian account and a U.S. account. It was cross-border banking. Everything was nice and easy. It's amazing. But when the convoy happened, I actually decided to cancel my TD account. I know in the U.S. and open a local bank, I was like, I don't trust TD because I read the EA back then and it said any companies doing business in Canada need to follow. Now, I didn't think it will happen, but I was like, I'm not taking any chances. And that's what they were talking about. And it's like, I didn't see it on Fox. I saw it when Chrystia Freeland announced the EA and I read it. And that's when I saw that's the issue, not Fox News announcing what the Canadian government said they're going to do.
Yeah. But she said today, because I think, is it Alan Honor? He asked which other institution, financial institution that order bring in, like, who need to follow. And she said, but the order was to all financial institution in Canada. So it's kind of shocking.
Yeah, so it was for everyone, but then she said, we're glad it didn't need to be used. She said, we gave them incentives to leave. That's like, no, that is not what incentives means. Just like she misquoted what Banana Republic means. She's like accusing the truckers. Clip 2. Let's play clip 2.
It's the clip 3 for the Banana Republic.
Is it 3? I think it was 2.
It's so crazy.
It was like, you have 2 and 3.
If you were watching my live tweeting today, I would just quote her. Like, she said something along the lines of today. It was like Ottawa was like a Tinder keg waiting to explode or go out or spark. I was like, the array of words. Oh no, when she said to lawyer as well, she was like, I'm pretty sure that lawyers think that what I'm saying is very esoteric. So
yes, I heard that. But the funniest part was when she gave that weird laugh when the Saskatchewan lawyer came on and he's like, I hope that you'll answer my questions as nicely as you answer the other guy. and she laughed so weirdly. Ugh.
I know. I was like, my God, this is like a laugh of a witch.
Oh yeah, it was like a crow. A crow croaking. All right, let's go to that clip 3.
Yeah,
Banana Republic.
Yeah.
That quote relayed to me really made me realize I had a duty of stewardship. I have a duty. I had at that moment a very profound duty to Canadians to stand up for them. And I'm surprised that I'm getting emotional, but I really felt it. And I felt like, the Canadian economy, it could seem like this amorphous thing. Investment, it can seem amorphous. EV incentives, amorphous. But when I heard that, I realized I'm the finance minister. I'm the deputy prime minister. I have to protect Canadians. I have to protect their well-being. It's being really, really damaged. So yeah, that was a meaningful conversation for me, and that was a very memorable quote, and for sure a spur to action.
You know, if you didn't have any background information on who this individual was at all, you might think listening to that, like, this person really takes their job seriously. Yeah. She just got very emotional. Like, no, lady, we'd like for you to take your job more personally. We'd like for you to not just sit there and tell me that you're the finance minister, but actually do what's in your job description to do. And it starts with being transparent and being honest. I could go on, but when she started to get emotional, just like she did when she was talking about electric car batteries, that was like seriously disturbing. Yankee, what do you think about this?
I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure Banana Republics refer to the government again and not to truckers. So I'm not sure. Like, if someone mentioned that they don't want to invest in Canada because it's a Banana Republic, look in the mirror.
100%. That's a direct reflection.
It might be you. I don't think it was the truckers. And there's also, clip 7, I believe, where they basically said, "Oh, Biden made us do it." After they spoke to Biden. That's an Alan Honor clip of Alan Honor speaking. Do we want to show it, studio? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
This one is good too.
Heard that the CEOs of 2 major banks contacted you, Canadian banks, I believe. And we also heard that President Biden, who's probably the world's most powerful person, or near that, had a telephone call with the Prime Minister.
Yes, both of those things are true.
And that telephone call, it happened on a Friday, and by the Monday, the Emergencies Act was invoked.
That's true.
Okay, and so I put it to you, Minister, that the federal government had to show the USA that they were in control, and that explains why the Emergencies Act was invoked, despite the fact that, for example, the Ambassador Bridge was cleared and open to traffic.
No, I wouldn't agree with that characterization.
Okay, well, I would put it to you that the pressure the government was under explains why the Emergencies Act was invoked, despite the fact that a deal had been struck with the protesters in Ottawa to reduce the footprint of the protest in that city.
Again, I would disagree with that.
Well, let's see if you would agree with this. I'd put it to you that there was no meaningful consultation with the provinces, not even advance notice of what the First Minister's meeting was about. And that's because the government didn't have time for it. They just had to make a decision about the Emergencies Act because of the tremendous pressure that they were under.
Again, I disagree with a great deal of that characterization.
One last question for you then, Ms. Freeland. I put it to you that given the overwhelming situation that the government was facing explains why they were willing to use extraordinary powers against their own people, despite the fact that no police agency or intelligence agency told them that there were threats to the security of Canada.
Again, I disagree with many of the premises in that question, and I would be happy to elaborate, but it seems that we're out of time.
You would be happy to elaborate.
Can you ask me a question? Can you ask me a question, Selene? Ask me a question.
Okay. Yankee, what was your takeaway from that? What premises did you find were unagreeable?
I disagree with the premise of that question.
Seriously, like it's so obvious. Like we're getting down to the bone. And by the way, I think that was a really strong cross by Alan Harner. I think that was one of his best to date, in my opinion. 100%. He did good.
Well, don't forget that she offered to provide a link to reflect her doubt during her testimony today. She was like, I cannot answer the question, but I can provide you a link that really explain what I think.
Did you catch that? She was the premise of this, because lady, it's the premise. Their premises, that's not the right context. Yeah. But the premise of what she was trying to say is that because she couldn't actually get her words out, that she would like to be able to drop you like a Neuralink, like some Elon Musk sounding stuff. And everyone was like, did she really just say that? Did she just insinuate that? But
she also said that she remembered the Terry Fox because she spoke to with her kids. And that's like on Twitter, you go on Twitter and these people like, I just spoke to my 2-year-old, and it's usually memes because the left used to say, my kid came home crying about, I don't know, abortion or some other things that kids don't know about. Yeah. Like her kids really were concerned about Terry Fox. They don't even know who the guy is, most likely.
Yeah, no, who knows? Stuff like that is, it's interesting to think about, right?
I want to recall that she actually mentioned too that she saw the entrance measure as a virtual toy truck.
Yeah. So actually suspending people's licenses to this lady was akin to producing somewhat of a virtual tow truck. Yeah. Just the way that she spoke today was bewildering.
It was an incentive.
It was an incentive. That's right.
It was an incentive. There are more clips. I don't know if we could pull them up. It's with the Three Stooges led by Katie Telford. They asked about U.S. Politicians. There's not a clip, but Studio, I sent it to you earlier. The second clip with a question mark, the first one with a question mark. Can you bring it up? It's about them asking about the former president, not naming President Trump, obviously, and other politicians that disagreed with agree with the truckers, disagree with the Trudeau government. And then there's another clip of Alan Harner again asking about American politicians sending letters to the government, and the government and them saying, "Oh, we don't know, we're not sure if we ever sent it to the Prime Minister."
Perfect. Let's take a look.
This is an email from Deputy Jacques Adam to Deputy Minister Jacques Adam to Deputy Minister David Morrison. I'm not sure if they're both from Global Affairs Canada, but the email sets out U.S. political reactions to Canadian measures. It's dated February the 16th. And if we can just look at item number 2 here, we see that there are different comments. One of the comments here is Canadian truckers being fired and now targeted as terrorists by your woke government. And it is attributed to a U.S. House of Representatives, a member. And there are other remarks from other politicians which are somewhat uncomplimentary towards our country. Do you know if this document was ever brought to the Prime Minister's attention?
I don't believe this document would. This looks like an internal document at the Department of Trade. But Prime Minister, we were all well aware that these views were being expressed by a certain segment in U.S. politics.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Certain segment, more like 50% or 75% of the U.S.
100%. I mean, it was enough people, 100%, that as you guys will recall, there was a convoy that was inspired by the original one here in Ottawa that happened in the U.S. We had embedded Rebel Zone Jeremy Lafredo as well. You can check out all of his reports. What is the URL, Yankee?
It is convoyreports.com. It's the same URL. It's there. You could scroll down. You'll find it.
I thought it'd be different because it's like the States, we got to keep it separate, apparently.
Yeah, but
it's the same convoy report. We also have the Australian convoy over there. And
exactly. And the Farmer Rebellion in Netherlands.
There you
That's
go.
a different Morel farmer rebellion. Oh.
Yeah, but we have, again, we've gone through this during the testimonies. I know that you guys have been keeping up. You've seen this for yourselves, but we have been able to see through all of these different testimonies that the government believes that now the Canadian flag stand, and maybe that's a broad term, specifically the Liberal deputy minister cabinets, ministers and the cabinet ministers believe that the Canadian flag has now, it's tainted, it's impure, it stands for a symbol of misogyny. Exactly. And of course it did, because it served as a reminder to the rest of the world as well. That's why people fly the Canadian flag when they have their own convoys, again, inspired by the first one that happened here in Ottawa. You know, I think it's, go ahead.
I mean, in Hong Kong, when they were protesting for freedom, they were flying American flags. And usually places where they're protesting for freedom, they'll have their own country flag for sure, but they'll also have American flags to symbolize freedom. Now they're symbolizing freedom with Canadian flags. That's something that Canadians should be proud of. Instead, she's blaming the truckers into turning Canada into a banana republic, and it's like,
but
you're so twisted.
And one of my the good moment today, it's when it's Brendan Miller say, Tamar Lich is a terrorist. And so Chrystia Freeland already replied, but I'm not the one who designate, who tell who is a terrorist or not.
Yeah.
And Brendan Miller afterwards break her in two pieces. Yeah. And can we show the clip, because it's just the perfect moment, because she say, oh, but it's not me who decide. I have nothing to do with that. I'm not a professional for doing that, and this it is.
Is Tamara Lich a terrorist?
Boom, outright.
In terms of designating who is a terrorist and who isn't, that is not my job as Minister of Finance or Deputy Prime Minister.
Okay.
We have authorities whose job is to do that.
Right. And so it's not your authority to designate Tamara Lich, Chris Barber, Tom Marazzo, or Danny Bold for terrorists. That's somebody else has to do that.
Yes, we have intelligence services. We have enforcement agencies whose job is to determine who is a terrorist.
Okay. And there you say that you need to designate the group as terrorists. So, but it's not your job, but you wanted to designate them as terrorists, right?
So that handwritten note in my notebook, I can assure you that was not a meeting with the director of CSIS, with whom I didn't have a meeting.
It says it's okay. It's with David Vignon from CSIS.
It doesn't say that. It says it's with a gentleman called Dave.
Which Dave?
That meeting, that is not an account of
which
a
Dave?
Meeting with Dave Vigneault, because I didn't have a meeting
which Dave is in
with
those
the
notes,
CSIS director.
Which Dave is in those notes? What's Dave's last name?
I need to see my whole notebook that you're referring to, but I can tell you for certain.
It only says Dave.
I can tell you for certain that I did not have a meeting during this time with the CSIS director.
Okay, so
I can exclude that 100%.
So, rumors are it's Dave Strigley, our web editor. No, just kidding.
Goodness.
But yeah, it's not. It can't be him. It's not him. It's some other guy. We don't know who, but it's some other guy.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but for something as important as we need to call or to name them as terrorists, I'm sorry, I will recall who is that Dave.
Yeah,
I think it's also. It's really crazy. I just want to add, Miller time every single day. I think people are just sitting on the edges of their chairs waiting for this, because it's the first time, and he goes first now, by the way, obviously. He didn't before, but now he does. I think it's just like, it's like soul reviving for all the councils. So they're probably just like, please go next. Please go first, because we can't. But I love how he walks her into it. He starts by, asking, do you think that these people are terrorists? Do you? Oh, well, no, it's not my job to delegate those sort of terms, but you got someone for it. And allegedly that is what other Dave could it be beside David Vignal, the director of CSIS? Please.
Well, at least she didn't go with the route, oh, it was a joke. We didn't mean to actually bring tanks. It was a joke. She could have gone the joke line about bringing tanks. One will do, we just need one to scare people, maybe a few shells. They didn't put that part, but, maybe we'll bring a tank, show them we mean business, and they'll run away. Maybe that's another incentive.
And this is the problem with handwriting paper notes.
Yeah.
You can write whatever you want. It's just like all over the place. And some people have you seen how hard it is to read what it is on the paper?
It's chicken scratch. It's worse than chicken scratch.
And this is what people do that because afterwards, it's really difficult to read. So for the people, if you bring these paper on court, everybody would be like, what is on the paper?
Can you imagine being that confident that you just write things like that down and you just think my hands are clean. No one's ever going to look at this. No one will ever ask me about what I have written on this note in front of me.
Yeah.
But, another thing you need to remember is, I've been in meetings that have, written notes of bullet points. Not every point that gets made enters into these bullet point things. It's only the most important, quote unquote, things. So it's what did they skip? What didn't they even put into these notes? What did they say that you were don't even mention it? Don't even write it down. That's what I want to know.
No, yeah, the speculation around that is actually scary because again, it's when we see you posted this on your Twitter, you screen recorded an entire segue of documents.
I don't know if you can show that, but I think it's
I think it was sent there. It's a link to Alexa's Twitter, and it's exactly that. Watch as we scroll. There are entire totally redacted. What is on there? I understand cabinet confidentiality. I get it. But in this case, as we just saw from Miller's Cross that Eva Chipiuk broke down, I'm not so certain that all of that is exactly necessary. So I'm hoping that that Rouleau actually makes a ruling so that this can be taken and we can actually have a final, what is going to come out at the end of this? Because how it's looking right now, I'm going to ask you that for our last question before we end this live stream. Yankee, what do you think the outcome is going to be from all of this? From what we've seen, tomorrow's the last day. Trudeau is testifying. What's going to happen?
So what I see three outcomes, right? One, Rouleau comes out and says Trudeau is wrong, no question about it. I doubt that will happen. Two, I see an option which I think will happen. Rouleau will say, the rules weren't that clear. That's why I think he was allowed to do it, although we should fix it for the future. Here's a row of recommendations that you should fix and move on in life. That's what I think will happen. Third could be Rouleau saying, I think it was justified, but I can't tell you. Well, there's actually four. I think it was justified, and here are the few reasons. And the fourth could be, here's why it's justified, but I can't tell you why, because all of it's in the redacted part where it's actually justified. So screw you. Nobody knows.